Hey, everybody, it's time for What Makes It News. Writing the news is what this says, but this is really talking about what makes something become newsworthy. There are eight news values that make something news. When we're trying to decide on stories that we want to present for Pat's TV, we look at these values and see if they fall under any of these categories and if they are newsworthy. The first of the news values is timeliness or immediacy. Timeliness. News is what's happening now. If it happened last month or last year, it's not news anymore, it's history. It's going on now. If it's timely, such as how the students are handling and teachers are handling the COVID-19 crisis, that's a timely story, and that's why we chose it for the last Pat's TV episode. As you see here, it says often the most newsworthy element in the story is the most recent happening, the latest occurrence that relates to the news event. Also, the story about the parking spots, the seniors' parking spots, that was a timely story. So timeliness is the first of the news values. The second news value is proximity. That means, did something important happen nearby? As you see in the first bulleted item, it says, how close to your readers or viewers in our case did something happen? Will they feel connected? Well, obviously, things that go on at Hillcrest High School are close by to who our audience, to our audience, and that's their interests. So that's what we'll cover: things that are close by, and in the Hillcrest area. All right, next bulleted item, all other things being equal, something that is happening in a person's school, neighborhood, town, or city is more meaningful to them than something taking place across the state or across the world. Yeah, you don't care as much about a high school in Montana and about their situation with their gym being rebuilt or something like that as you do our parking spaces at Hillcrest. The story's proximity, how close it is happening to you, is very important, and that's the second news value. The third news value, how will this affect your reader? What kind of impact or consequence? As you see there, that's the name of the news value here. How will it affect your readers? Something that will change, or reader, I should say viewers when I see this here, because we're doing a news broadcast, not a newspaper. Something that will change your viewers' lives, even in a small way, is more important than something that won't have any consequences for them. So if something important happens here at the school, such as some students being in person, some students being remote, that has an impact on everybody that we show Pat's TV to, that watches Pat's TV. So it has an impact on them. That's the third news value. The next one is conflict. Is there a disagreement between people in the story, a rivalry, a misunderstanding? Um, there's been a lot of debate about how schools should be set up, how many days we should be going, um, how students should be taught, whether they're coming to school in person or being remote. There are disagreements among people, so that is a newsworthy story that involves conflict because people have a disagreement on it. So that's what makes that a newsworthy story. Look at the next bullet there. People are naturally drawn to arguments, fights, disagreements, and discord. We find conflict fascinating. Stories related to war and politics, in addition to having impact, also are often interesting because they contain conflict. Bulleted item down there at the bottom. Some journalists also include continuation in this category, as many conflict stories are ongoing and reported continually for some time. Prominence and celebrity, that's the next news value. If a story is about a well-known person, then that story has news value because it has a celebrity in it. It's an important person. So if a story happens around here in the Hillcrest area about Brad Armstrong, then he's a celebrity as the mayor of Hillcrest. Not really, he's not really, just that's just what we call him. But anyway, an important story, an important person in our area. If it's prominence or celebrity, we might use that because it would have that news value. Um, if some other celebrity, let's say Taylor Swift, does something important, then that story might be interesting to viewers or readers because she is a celebrity. Looking at the second bulleted item there, Readers like to read about people they know. If a person is well known, more readers will be interested than if they have never heard of the person. This includes prominent people in your school or city, not just famous celebrities. The next one is oddity, rarity, or novelty. If something is strange or weird, we find it interesting, and that's what makes it newsworthy, makes it one of the news values. Like it says up here in the bullet, if something is out of the ordinary, it may be newsworthy just because it's unusual or weird. Next bullet, the strange or unusual is fascinating to many readers. Events that happen only rarely are more newsworthy than something that happens frequently. A good example of that is the play that happened at the Wetumpka game this past Friday night. It was a football game, and football games, high school football games, happen all the time. But the reason this particular play and this particular game was newsworthy is because it's very rare for there to be 9 pitch outs, 2 fumbles, and 1 pass on the last play of a game and make it a touchdown. It's so unusual and so rare. That's what made it interesting for so many people and why so many news organizations picked that story up. Second bullet there says, the strange or unusual is fascinating to many readers. Events that happen only rarely are more newsworthy than something that happens frequently. I might have already read that. I don't know. The next one is human interest or emotion. Does something cause you to have some kind of strong emotion? Does it pull at your heartstrings? Does it make you feel sympathy towards somebody else? This is a human interest story, and that's the news value that we're talking about with this. Does it make you laugh, or does it make you want to cry? As the second bullet says, anything that appeals to readers' emotions is interesting. Stories that make people laugh, cry, get angry, feel sympathy or pity, or to be amazed are often the most read stories or the most viewed stories on a website or in a show of some sort, in a news broadcast production, or the most interesting ones anyway. For example, if you have an elderly person celebrating their 100th birthday and they still exercise or they still play basketball every day or something else like that, that kind of tugs at your heartstrings, makes you feel kind of, that awe feeling. And that's a human interest story. That's the type of thing. Or if you see a story about a dog rescuing a child from drowning or something like that, that causes you to get emotional, makes you amazed, and that puts it under the human interest category for the news values. The next one is currency. Some stories are news simply because a lot of people are talking about them. Often these are the stories that some people think are overblown or non-news, such as the birth of a royal baby or Miley Cyrus twerking on national TV. Just things that are talking about. The example that comes to mind for me with this is when we were trying to decide if that recording was saying Yanni or Laurel, Yanni or Laurel, or the dress, and we couldn't decide which color it was. It was just something that was very current. People were talking about on social media and in everyday life. And so that's what made it newsworthy, is because it had the news value of currency. All right. Just to wrap it up, the term news value is used to describe whether a particular story is news. When a story has one or more of the elements of news, it has news value. But some stories have more value to readers than others. The more elements that are present for a particular audience, the more value a story for them has as news. We want to do things that are important, present stories that are important or interesting to people. They have to have some of these news values in order to be considered for a story for Pat's TV. That's news values. We're going to be talking about this a lot more in the coming days, so stay tuned. Thanks for joining us.